May the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, fill your hearts today. My brothers and sisters all around the world, I want to specially welcome you to this teaching on why Jesus didn't experience the virgin birth. It is imperative that each man is able to see truth from fiction, especially when studying the scriptures, so that true freedom may be realized in the hearts of all. Throughout the Bible, there are several stories of great men who did extraordinary things. Great men who won battles through the most unlikely strategies one could ever think of. Yes, quick examples like Gideon with his 300 men against a mighty army. Moses who parted the Red Sea. Samson who fought against an army of thousands with just a jawbone. Daniel who survived a den of hungry lions. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego who survived the raging fires, etc. Their heroic works were told from generation to generation. In the New Testament, we read about the man called Jesus, who also did amazing miracles that baffled the minds of people of his time. Today, however, we will focus mainly on the birth of Jesus. Two books in the New Testament detail how the whole process of his birth took place. These are the book of Matthew chapter 1, verses 18 to 25, and Luke chapter 1, verses 26 to 38. For more insight though, it will be helpful if you would read the first chapters of these books. According to these texts I mentioned earlier, Jesus' birth was announced by an angel who indicated that the process of his conception will be an act of the Holy Spirit and not by the natural means between a man and a woman. The book of Matthew re-emphasized this by stating in the 25th verse of the first chapter that he did not have sexual relation with her until her son was born. This would have been surely known as a supernatural event to have ever taken place in human history. But for a few words written by the author of the book of Matthew that fueled the need for more research into this subject matter of his birth. From the 20th through to the 23rd verse of Matthew chapter 1, we read, as he considered this, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream. Joseph, son of David, the angel said, do not be afraid to take Mary as your wife, for the child within her was conceived by the Holy Spirit, and she will have a son, and you are to name him Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins. All of this occurred to fulfill the Lord's message through his prophet. Look, the virgin will conceive a child. She will give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, which means God with us. My brothers, the Bible is full of prophetic messages spoken by holy men. We can speak of the prophetic message of the birth of Isaac, of Joseph concerning the departure of the Israelites from Egypt, of Elijah who stopped rain for 3.5 years, and so on and so forth. Therefore, according to the book of Matthew, the angel speaking of this supernatural feat of a virgin birth referred to a prophecy by Isaiah, which we find in Isaiah chapter 7, verse 14 to 16, and it reads, Alright then, the Lord himself will give you the sign. Look, the virgin will conceive a child. She will give birth to a son and will call him Emmanuel, which means God with us. By the time this child is old enough to choose what is right and reject what is wrong, he will be eating yogurt and honey. For before the child is that old, the lands of the two kings you fear so much will both be deserted. This prophecy by the prophet spoke of how God planned to deliver the people of the tribe of Judah from their enemies. The prophecy did not talk about a distant future, but it sought to address the present need of the people at that time. When you study this prophecy from the Hebrew perspective, you find that the word translated as virgin is Alma. The word Alma simply means a young woman of marriageable age. This does not necessarily mean that the young woman is a virgin, for there is another word for virgin in Hebrew, which is Bethulah, which strictly means a virgin, that is one who has never had sexual relations with a man. Bethulah has been used in several instances in the Old Testament. Typical examples are Esther chapter 2 verse 2, Genesis 24:16, Deuteronomy 22:13-19. Please take time to study these texts. You will find them very revealing. Now, according to the prophecy found in Isaiah chapter 7 verse 14-16, Isaiah was not referring to a virgin, but a young woman. However, so many English translators have erred in rendering the text properly so as to maintain its consistency with the Hebrew text. Later translations like the NET Bible and the JPS Tanakh 1917 gave a more consistent rendition of the text. For example, Isaiah 7:14, according to the NET Bible, reads, "For this reason, the sovereign master himself will give you a confirming sign. Look, this young woman is about to conceive and will give birth to a son. You, young woman, will name him Emmanuel." The JPS Tanakh 1917 also translates the text as this: "Therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold, the young woman shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel." Now, going back to the book of Matthew, the word translated as virgin in the 23rd verse of Matthew 1 is Parthenos in Greek. Parthenos simply means a virgin, as in one who has never had sexual relations with a man. This clearly reveals that the author of the book of Matthew, in referencing this prophecy, misinterpreted the words of Isaiah. Many scholars have, however, argued that the prophecy was symbolic of God's deliverance for all mankind through Jesus. Indeed, the name Emmanuel is a symbol of hope. But the writer of the book of Matthew sought to place significance not only on the symbolism of the name Emmanuel, but also on Mary's virgin conception, for which reason it was clearly stated that Joseph never had any sexual relations with Mary before she gave birth to Jesus. But unfortunately, the prophecy did not refer to a virgin birth, and so it casts lots of doubt on whether the virgin birth story was realistic. More to this, it is well known that the New Testament writers sought to prove the divinity of Jesus. Therefore, this supernatural virgin birth of Jesus, if it were true, would have been one of the most often told stories by the early apostles. However, we find that apart from what was written in the books of Matthew and Luke, none of the earlier apostles ever mentioned it. Their silence on this matter further makes it clear that it did not take place. What we find oftentimes is a statement that indicates that Jesus was a man just like us, and God specially made it so. One instance is a text from Hebrews chapter 2, verses 14-17, and I read, "Because God's children are human beings, made of flesh and blood, the Son also became flesh and blood, for only as a human being could he die, and only by dying could he break the power of the devil, who had the power of death. Only in this way could he set free all who have lived their lives as slaves to the fear of dying." We also know that the Son did not come to help angels, he came to help the descendants of Abraham. Therefore, it was necessary for him to be made in every respect like us, his brothers and sisters, so that he could be our merciful and faithful high priest before God. Then he could offer a sacrifice that would take away the sins of the people. Ladies and gentlemen, you should know that Jesus was born as a son of Joseph and Mary. It was of great necessity for Jesus to be conceived just like we were conceived, and be born just like we were born, so that he could prove to us that despite our many weaknesses, it is possible, as human as we are, to actually live a pure life pleasing to God. If not so, anybody could argue that Jesus was able to live a pure life only because he had the advantage of a spirit-filled virgin birth, and therefore he did not know what it really meant to be human.